Hi guys, what is going on? Thanks for stopping by. Welcome to my channel where I focus on PvE progression and mostly free-to-play stuff as well. Guys, today's video is going to be on Xenomorph. I want to make a guide on him. I know there is already a lot of those out there, but I felt like, you know, why not make an extra one? The more the merrier. And also, most of them are pretty endgame, so I want to make a mid-game guide here. I will make another one when I have a 5-star soul for him, but I thought, you know, we all want to use him as quickly as possible, and so why not make the first guide here today. Note here before we go into this and talk about everything else, I don't have books on him, and purposely so. I don't want books on him. I want to see how well he does without books, because I know there's players out there who struggle with the legendary tomes, which is more than understandable. I put masteries on him already, and yes, so this can be, I hope, a pretty decent showcase. Let's start with his kit, I guess. We need crit rate on him, because when he crits, he puts 3 poisons on the A1. Totally insane, and places Perfect Veil on himself. Then I think I'll switch to the A3 here, because the A1 and the A3 are the reason why he's so strong against bosses. Attacks an enemy 2 times, deals 15% more damage for each poison debuff out there. So potentially 6 poison debuffs out there means 90% extra damage. Really strong. Also places Perfect Veil buff on this champion again, meaning that his Perfect Veil is just going to be up all the time against bosses or not against bosses. Doesn't really matter. If we book this, like, all of his books only mean that he gets cooldown. It doesn't mean that anything in terms of his kit, in terms of his skills is changed. It only means that we go from a 4-turn to a 3-turn cooldown on the A2 and the A3, and we get a pretty good amount of damage as well. On the A3, 30%, and the same on the A2. The passive, whenever this champion is attacked, has a 25% chance of placing a poison. Now this increases to 50% when it's booked. The debuff cannot be resisted or blocked if this attack is critical. So that is not too impactful. I guess it like applies in arena mostly, but we don't really care for poisons in arena, at least not all that much. If an enemy is under a poison debuff placed by this champion, decreases their defense by 20%. That is very impactful. If you have some decent damage dealers on your team, and he himself is a pretty decent damage dealer as well, then this is going to mean that your damage numbers are going to go up by a good amount. Decreased defense out there should be mandatory anyways, and then there is other mechanics which we can look at in a second here that decrease the enemy's defense even further, getting us closer to making true damage. It won't be true damage, but you know, we'll get closer to making really good damage. And now I want to look at his A2 a bit separate from the rest of his kit, because we don't want to use this against bosses. We want to use this against waves and against arena enemies, so PvP. Attacks an enemy before attacking, places a stun and an infest debuff for 2 turns on the target. 2-turn stun, taking out certain enemies, is really strong. And then we'll get to the infest debuff in a second here. He also places true fear debuff on all other enemies for a turn. Also really nice, so we definitely want accuracy on him. He brings a good amount of crowd control, really. This debuff cannot be resisted if this champion is under a Perfect Veil. Also, the debuffs from the A2, the other ones here, stun and infest, can also not be resisted if this champion is under Perfect Veil. So 2 ways we can go about this in arena. Either we have very high accuracy, or we bring another champion that brings Perfect Veil. Because otherwise we would have to go with like the A2, the A3 or the A1 before the skill, and that doesn't really make sense. I guess you could do that in against waves, but not in arena. The only part left of this here is the infest debuff. Whenever an enemy under an infest debuff dies, deals pure damage to all other alive enemies. This pure damage is equal to 50% of the enemy's max HP who died while under the infest debuff. Then we just have some shenanigans. Pure damage cannot be critical, and then pure damage does not exceed 10% of the enemy's max HP when it's against boss minions and bosses. But this is very interesting, because if we attack waves, he doesn't seem like a wave killer, but if we attack waves, he has good single target damage. Bring another good single target damage dealer. Mikey potentially spreading this. However, you will need to be relatively like this. You would have to manual that fight probably, because Mikey and Xenomorph are different affinities, so they won't attack the same enemies. So you will have to manual to spread this, but even if you don't spread this, if you attack the enemy with the highest max HP, 50% of that enemy's max HP as damage to all other enemies is really, really, really strong. Especially looking at higher level content where the HP of the enemies is much higher than it is in the beginning. Alright, so much to his kit. I think pretty straightforward against bosses. A1 and A3, and then the passive helps, really good. And then against waves and an arena, we want to use the A2. And that's exactly what we're going to do in this showcase. Go definitely for clan boss, go for dragon, go and look what the damage does against waves, and then also test him in arena. At the very least, maybe I'll think of another area where I really want to test him, but I think those are the core areas to give us all a good idea what he can do. So in terms of his build, I think relatively straightforward here. I didn't go for any crit damage though. I looked for survivability where I could get it, just because he's only level 48 and he is relatively squishy. I want to mostly test his poisons. That being said, we definitely need crit rate on him in order to place the poisons. So, you know, low crit damage, but crit capped, on point actually here. And then the survivability, as I said, 40k HP, round about that, and then 2750 defense. Always aim for that 2600 mark if we can on the defense side here. And then with accuracy, I'm a bit low, but we'll use Mikey's accuracy aura and then it's fine. The two champions that we really want to pair anyways, because they, you know, they work very well together. And like I said, if we manual stuff, like this should be fun in arena to spread the infest debuff, and that should be fun as well. For the relic, I just went for Malefic Talon, a bit of crit damage and a bit of extra damage here with the special effect. Nothing too crazy comes to mind, honestly. If we want to use him in arena, I guess there is always like the Wand of Submission and some crazier relics, but in the lower tiers, I don't really see what's going to be too crazy strong for him here. At least looking at my relics. I've got to say, I'm holding back on relics a bit. I'm not studying them like crazy because I feel like it's hard to get a good amount. His blessing is going to be a bit more interesting though. There is a couple of very good options here, I feel like. I've seen that Hades says lethal dose is pretty decent for arena just because of the poisons and the extra damage from poisons. I guess you could do that. I'm definitely not looking for him to be an arena champion. He can be nice there. Next to lethal dose, we have cruelty though. Whenever this champion hits an enemy, decreases their defense until the end of the round. So this can stack up on a 5-star blessing to 15%. 15% damage decrease against bosses. Great synergy with his passive. That is definitely something that we always want to bring against the clan boss. The other thing is obviously Brimstone. So these two, I'm having Mikey with Brimstone, and so Xenomorph, if I would use him in my regular clan boss team, I would probably go cruelty. That being said, I already have Donatello with a 3-star cruelty. I would have to see where I switch or what I move around in order to make the team really have good synergy. You could go Crushing Rend. 5-star is already pretty strong. That being said, it's only the first 2 hits that he does are going to ignore enemy defense. So I think Crushing Rend really becomes crazy when we go to 6-star. Also, he does good damage. But we're looking more at mid-game stuff, so I really feel like it's Cruelty, Brimstone, and then I guess if you want to go for extra damage, you could go Nature's Wrath, just because there is a lot of poisons out there. And therefore, he's always going to do max extra damage here, and at 5-star, that's going to be 15% extra damage. Not too crazy against bosses. Like I said, you'll always have, like, it's going to be crazy in arena. But like I said, you'll always have to see what you have on your accounts and what kind of synergy you have on your accounts. So in terms of his masteries, nothing too crazy here. I went for War Master because in the beginning those procs are going to be much more helpful than Helm Smasher, being dependent on the damage that he does. So War Master definitely being the best here, Methodical being pretty strong because his A1 is very important against bosses, and getting extra damage from that, him having crit rate anyways, is decent. I think special call out here to Life Drinker because this heal with the War Master procs can just be helpful at times against bosses, especially clan boss, so that is definitely an option. You could also go single out, and I might still do that. I haven't really decided yet 100% where to go with this third row here. I think the support side is something very interesting though, because accuracy is obviously great. Charged focus can be nice in arena if you want to use him there. We'll check how strong he actually is in arena, but increased accuracy by 20 when he uses his A2 for the first time can be very nice. But I think the biggest things to call out here are Arcane Celerity, 30% chance to increase the turn meter when a debuff is expired or expires, which is going to happen often against bosses due to the amount of poisons. Lore of Steel just helping him to survive. And then the most important one next to War Master is going to be Master Hexer. Has a 30% chance to extend the duration of any debuff cast by this champion by a turn. This is really strong for the poisons. However, I'm a bit worried that he's going to overfill the poison bar anyways, but we'll see about that later on. So let's go into Clan Boss first. Unlucky, somebody already did like 500, 600 million damage here. But luckily, it went to Spirit Affinity, which is the good affinity for these two guys, which we want to use and want to test in the Clan Boss here today. Mikey next to Xenomorph. We can already say that Mikey uses his decreased defense first, and then we don't want the Xenomorph to use his infest here, and we definitely want the A1 as the opener. So we do have pretty crazy speed on Xenomorph, by the way, I just noticed. I think I'm gonna reduce that a bit. I had the high speed in order to test some shenanigans in Spider. It didn't work, I'll mention that later on. It's not too important for this showcase here right now. I have decreased attack, I have increased defense then. I'll need increased speed though. I will get turn meter from Arbiter. Yes, I will need increased speed. I would love strengthen on and or ally protection, but I won't have those. But I guess that's fine. I guess that's fine. Let's just bring Tagore here and see how we do. We'll have 2 AoE revivers. We'll have shield and increased speed from Tagore, increased attack and more turn meter from Arbiter, increased defense, perfect veil, a bit of shield for himself from Tatura, and then just damage from these two guys here. Let's see if we need to switch around anything on the... I don't think we'll need to switch anything on the presets here. So let's go into this and let's see how this team does. I think this should be interesting. Oh no, I did a quick battle. This is bad. All right, 20 million Ultra Nightmare 4-key done. Oh no! That's a key wasted for me. That's a key wasted. Look at the damage though. Look at the damage from Xenomorph. That's 9.5 million. Mikey coming in with Brimstone, being in very strong gear. At least for my account here. Whoa! Wow! Tatura, by the way, he's in decent gear, also doing pretty decent damage. I'm a bit shocked how little damage Mikey does. Let me check on his gear for a second. Or in a second, actually. But Xenomorph, that is shocking to me, honestly. That is shocking. I don't have... Yeah, I do. All right, let's let's look at Mikey's gear here. Yeah, he's in his damage gear. He's in the best gear that I have for him. He is usually like... him next to Occult Brawler, he usually does more damage than Occult Brawler, but I did bring Donatello next to him in those team compositions. So I'm guessing that, you know, the ally attacks already having a huge impact when you only have 2 turtles really becomes clear here. I think usually Mikey would have done possibly like 2 to 3 million damage more with another turtle on the team. But that's fine. All right, Xenomorph being pretty crazy. I guess there's not too much else to see doing Clan Boss. We can't see how well he places poisons against the dragon as well. He was relatively fast as well. I wanted to switch his gear around. This is a bit annoying. Sorry guys, this isn't the perfect showcase. I am just going to switch the gear quickly. So this should make for a better showcase now. We have 206 speed, still relatively quick, but I think a bit more realistic. Let's actually go into Dragon here. I decided to go for the same team again against the Dragon. It's Spirit, again, stage 24 being harder than stage 20. I'm very interested here. Unfortunately, due to changing the gear on Xenomorph, I will be slower with the Xenomorph in comparison to Mikey, meaning that the spreading of the infest is going to be a bit annoying. But like I said, I really want to test Xenomorph's ability to ramp up poisons on the boss when he only has roundabout 200 speed. All right, so let's spread the infest with Mikey. Put out decreased defense there, and then just see what happens. Like, I don't want Spirit Host to cleanse anything, so I'm definitely going to focus her. Yeah, Xeno doing alright damage, but nothing too crazy there. But again, we don't have crit damage. Tatura putting out some freezes, and there we go. Everybody dying from the infest debuff. I think this is really fun. This is really fun. It's a bit, like I said, it's a bit unfortunate that it doesn't work on auto. It doesn't work on auto. I'm not sure if there is any champions in the game that spread the stuff from or would spread the stuff from Xenomorph more reliably, but I doubt it actually. I really doubt it. Let's just put this on auto, and then I guess what we can do, if we don't want to manual this, we can make sure that Xeno is quicker than Mikey, and then just go for auto and target specific enemies. If we do that, then Mikey and him are going to attack the same enemy, and we're going to spread what needs to be spread. Unfortunately though, we would have to tell the presets that Mikey has to use his A2 as the first priority, because I'm noticing he definitely has his A2. He has it ready, but he isn't using it because Spirit Host is already stunned, it seems, which is really annoying. Yeah, he had this ready the whole time. Let's spread the infest, kill her, and there you can see that's proper damage. That's proper damage, and now we need to only kill 1 or 2 of the enemies here, and then we're going to be fine. Like, yeah, kill her, and then that's it. That's super amazing. It's really great against waves. Like I said, it's a bit manual heavy though. Okay, so let's see what Xenomorph does here, just attacking the boss. I'm pretty sure I've turned off his A2, and he's only going in with the A1 and the A3. 3 poisons. 2 are extended as well, or not? Yeah, extended. That's the thing though. He overloads the poison bar by himself, 200 speed. He overloads the poison bar, the debuff bar. So it means we didn't place decreased defense here. Mikey would have placed decreased defense a second ago. Didn't happen because there are so many poisons from Xenomorph. This is insane. It would be really great to have a poison exploder. Xenomorph coming in with pretty decent damage here. I'm really wondering where the infest damage is counted. Is it counted as his damage? That's what I'm wondering. Because I feel like it can't have been. It can't have been counted as his damage. Looking at Tutora, just doing some regular damage with his crit and crit damage, crit rate and crit damage, doing 700,000 and him just doing 2,700, I feel like it's not counted as his damage. Alright, I noticed I do have Elenaral as a poison explosioner, and so I thought just bring her in here. Just as a fun little showcase, we'll see how well this works. Not a lot of utility here, not a lot of support actually. Just some healing, but not really any survivability. But this is just to, you know, show what the poisons might be able to do here. Alright, so AoE poisons, spreading that with Mikey, and then we'll see what the explode is going to do. This is interesting. The combust, I mean, from Elenaro. She should use this on auto, so let's see if... Yeah, we nearly kill everybody. It's close though. It's close. So this should be an interesting team to try this against. Xenomorph is a bit low on accuracy. I hope that we'll be able to place the infest debuff here. I think this is not the most reliable strategy right here, but it's just a fun one. We can go into this and, you know, into fights and just have a bit of fun. Unfortunately, Wukong is the only one. It got resisted. Let's try again. Wukong with resistance? So we were much faster than the enemy team, so I'll just switch this around and go with the accuracy aura from Mikey. Maybe we were just unlucky with the resist there. We'll see about that. Let's go again. Like I said, we unfortunately only have good affinity on Wukong, which is why we are going for this guy as well. He resisted again. The stun is placed, but the infest debuff is just always resisted. How? This is a bit painful to lose so many arena fights. Like, we don't have perfect veil on us, obviously. Maybe I should go against this slow team just for the showcase. Maybe I should go with Tutora giving... Oh no, Rectodrath giving me perfect veil here. There we go. Alright, infest is placed. And now Mikey should actually be able to kill Wukong right off the bat, but still spreading the infest and then giving damage to everybody else. Alright, now we just need to see how quickly we can do damage to a second enemy in order to kill more enemies. Yeah, Wukong is already back. We can see it's a nice method. Maybe my champions aren't optimal for this. Let's just try to kill Wukong here right away, but it doesn't work. Maybe with the Arbiter, and we're still in the game. If he gets a turn, we should be in trouble. Alright, Xenomorph being saved by Donatello's passive. And we only have one infest debuff left. Unfortunately, we weak hit on her, and she's relatively tanky, so it seems like we won't be able to take her down before she takes a turn, and the infest debuff is gone. Yeah, alright. So, maybe not the perfect showcase. Let me try to find another team, possibly. So against this team, I think we really need more damage in order to actually take down the enemies that we've infested. So I thought I'd just bring a Leonardo. I know this isn't very practical and it doesn't really make all that much sense. Unfortunately, they have a lot of block debuffs there as well. So, and we can't attack any of the guys that actually don't have block debuffs. So we can already see we'll need very specific teams in order to make this possible in Arena. I was actually a bit annoyed here that I couldn't find any proper teams this really works against, but I think this actually makes a pretty great showcase because it is exactly what is going to happen to us when we feel like, or when we hope he is going to make a huge difference for us in Arena. It's not really going to happen, I feel like. His stun is nice, and then, you know, with the right circumstances, it feels like he could do decent in Arena, but there is too many ifs there for me. I would just go Yakal, for example, bringing me really great damage. He will have trouble against a team like this as well, but at least it doesn't take all that much setup. It's just him placing the freeze, and then you're good to go in most cases. Him placing, spreading, and then having to kill at least 2 of the enemies in order to kill all the rest. It's too much shenanigans for me. I think it doesn't work reliably, especially if we don't have crazy teams, and especially if we are early game, mid game, and don't have the crazy gear either. Alright guys, so I've just been away for a couple of hours, and I came back and I decided I really want to have at least one proper showcase with Xenomorph killing an enemy team in Arena. So I thought, why not go against this one? Just try it. Maybe we can have a proper showcase here of Infest actually winning us an Arena fight. So let's just go in for this guy. We have the Infest out there. Let's spread that. Hopefully Mikey does it. Yes, he does. The damage is coming in. And Yakal being very nice here with his AoE, killing everybody due to the Infest. All right. Here we go, we have at least one good showcase. So, like I said, it can be decent, it can be fun, it can work, it just needs a bit of setup. So Hell Hades gives him a 4-star overall rating, with I would agree with, but for different reasons. Hell Hades does this because he thinks that, or the team of Hell Hades thinks that he's really strong against waves as well. I haven't seen too many endgame showcases yet, showing the shenanigans that he can do. But looking at early game and the fact that we can't spread the Infest on auto means for me that the A2 and the Infest against waves is going to be a nice bonus. But he is not going to be crazy strong there. If we are very lucky, then enemies under Infest debuff are going to be killed during the fight, and that might mean that the rest of the enemies are just going to wipe when they are below 50% HP. And that, like, it can speed up the run, but it's nothing reliable, and it's nothing that we can control. So I don't see the 4.5-star rating against waves. However, I'm still saying that it's a 4-star rating overall, just because he's so great against bosses. The clan boss run, 9.5 million damage, 4.5 million more than Mikey, if I remember correct here. No books yet. And him just using his A1 basically and the A3. The biggest problem that I see if you don't book him is that he overfills the poison bar. Hell Hades gives him a 10 out of 10 in book value, which I don't really see. We can use him without books absolutely fine. No questions asked. He is going to fill up the debuff bar. The poisons are going to be crazy. He's going to do crazy damage. The trouble with this is he might make it impossible for your team to place decrease attack on the boss, for example, on the clan boss, and that might mean that we'll wipe relatively early in the fight. And this is where I really see the book value for early game and mid game, because making the A3 from a 4-turn to a 3-turn is going to mean that we'll land less poisons on the clan boss, meaning that we'll have more chances to place decrease attack. So this is actually where I see the big book value. I guess Hell Hades' book value here is really coming from the damage, which is very impactful in endgame. And then also, yeah, I guess just also the cooldowns as well. I mean, having a 2-turn stun on a 3-turn is pretty amazing, even if it is on a single enemy out here. All right, guys, so I think that's mostly it. He gives him a 5. Let's just check for a couple of more ratings here. Demon Lord 4.5, I agree. Dragon 5, and the rest not too great. Fire Knight, a 3.5. I guess this is due to the fact that he's pretty decent against waves, or she. I don't know if Xenomorph is male or female, actually. Ice Golem, a 4, I agree. Yeah, I think the rest I pretty much agree with. I'm not too sure on the waves, though. Guys, what do you think about this? And have you seen any showcases where the value that he can have against waves is illustrated better or shown better. I really think for early game and mid game, that's not his strongest spot, to say the least. All right, guys, that's it for the video. Thanks for stopping by. I hope you have a great day. Please comment down below what your thoughts are on Xenomorph, and I hope to see you on the next one. Until then, bye.